Welcome back, guys, to the next part of our show tonight. Um, we are landing and talking with some mobsters.
Yeah, we got some travel to do first, so let's get that over with. Is it
Hmm.
so do you want to do your investigation now into the sex bot? Or do you want to wait until you uh like make your first spike jump?
I had to do like 3 spike jumps, right?
No time like the present
Yeah,
for
you got to
science,
do a
Jake.
bunch.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to
the
get
spike jump. I mean, we got to do like 3 of them. So
okay. Well, yeah, at least to move it along and put you in a different place. Let's do that spike jump real quick.
yeah, it's gonna take us like 3 weeks to get there.
That's not the
No,
roll. That's not the roll. That's the wrong
That's
button.
not the roll? Okay,
It's not the
good.
roll. That's
Good.
a save roll. She doesn't roll saves. 7, which
Shit.
no, it's fine because she just made this jump. So there was no modifier to the roll.
Good
So
job, Carmella.
yeah, so you guys, so some hours pass. You guys rest up after your fight. You all were really heavily taxed, like not just like making decisions and being awake for a while, but like, it's draining cognitively to like analyze and sort of man all the systems you had to. So you guys all sleep like a pretty healthy sleep, except for Varlo, who spends the entire 6 days uh, taking a couple hours here and there to sleep, but spends the whole time readying the lab and the equipment to do human genome analysis, basically, and to because it's modifiable sort of equipment, but it's set up to do a lot of things. So you have to do a lot of prep work and queue up certain programs, and you have a lot of animated discussions with Rosebud about her various like protocols on doing this and that. We skip all that, and boom, you're back in Astioch. You're going to need fuel. You can go scoop it real quick, or you can go spend 500 credits to not have to make a roll to scoop successfully.
Yeah, we got the scoops. We should use them.
Cool. So roll
Two
me,
scoops.
Varlo. Give me a skill roll, and just don't get worse than a 7.
Good old President 2 scoops.
What skill? Sorry.
Your technical, not fix, but
Program.
Program. Yeah.
Program.
Good. You're fine.
Yes.
So you're able to sort of speedily. You guys shave off a couple days after your work. You don't have to spend whatever it is, like 24 hours or something like that, like orbiting and letting the scoops work, because Varlo's got them sort of optimized for essentially a flyby. It only takes you a couple hours to scoop some fuel, and you move along. Carmela says points out she still has a good map, good rudders for the next jump, so she can make it pretty quickly and is going to make it right now. Yes. Boom. You're fine. You're here. So, a total of 6. We'll call it, by the end of this trip, another 2 weeks have passed. So, someone put down on the captain's log of the Vanderhorn that another 2 weeks have passed. I think I have a running thing there. If I don't, I can give you the information. Vanderhorn. The Vanderhorn. No, that's not it. Here, I'll do it on Roll20. So, you have some time. So give me this setup. Varlo and Atlas. Have just made your second jump, and it's been a number of days. The ship's you're piloting your way through the system. You're ready to jump out. You have to go in to go get some more fuel, basically at a nearby dormant star or a sort of collapsed star, not even a planetoid. And and Carmela says like she has to at least let some time pass before she fires up the engines again. So you just have a good window of opportunity here before you make your final jump and discuss your approach to New Jerusalem. So this is a good time to do your experimenting. So what's your setup, guys? How do you pick your target, and what are you investigating? I want to know more details.
Well, I think Varlo would suggest taking 2 at random and taking 1 of each gender. Looking to test the genetic composition. So, like, synthetically, are they human, and how similar are the 2 of them together? Are they exact like genetic matchups? Are they varied, and where are they varied? Are they clones? Does it look like there's a lot of like customization, or does it look like they're naturally bred and then chemically altered and then like psychologically affected?
Cool. So yeah, you're sort of doing this, you're thinking, but it's in programming because it's figuring out what different programs to run to do this type of analysis. And I guess it's up to you guys to go pick your people out, pick your sex bots out.
Yeah, we just like if Varlo's like
Meeny, miny, mo.
yeah, exactly. It's just like that one is male, that one is female. Yeah, let's go with this one, and then we just grab one male, one female. And I'm
Okay.
like, excuse me, what are your names?
Yeah. So before you do that, okay, well, I won't remember 2 weeks. I'll figure it out next break. I've got a counter to count off the age of the ship, just in terms of calculating how long you are till maintenance, basically. So I need you to roll me. So you want a male, or do you want one that looks male? Or in the sense that like there's kind of a gradation, maybe 10 obvious males, and then a group of in between, and then a bunch of females. Or what you can do is if you just want to pick out 2 samples, we can do that too, two individuals.
Let's just grab 2 samples. It doesn't really matter all that much.
No, so here, do me this. Roll me 2. We'll get you a male and a female.
Okay.
Who wants to make the roll? Atlas, you're picking them out. Give me 2 D50 rolls. Like 2 individual D50 rolls.
Yes, 22. That one is Bart Bartleby, and 15. That one is Steve Dave.
Ah, yes, my best friend Steve Dave. I could never forget him.
Okay.
Stevie Davy.
You get you come up to the first one, who is female, and you look at her, and she doesn't do anything, and you tell her stand up, and she stands up. I guess get her to identify herself, and she says her name is Vixen.
Vixen.
I'm Vixen.
Okay.
What would you have of me?
Well, head towards the lab.
And see what's on the slab.
Exactly. Would you go for a bite? Bite. Maybe stay for the night.
Night.
It's like the lab. Okay. Which way is the lab?
Rosebud, please have a directory towards the lab for her.
Yeah, there's a little light display that like appears on the floor, like LEDs that light up, and it like subject, follow the green light. And Vixen nods once and stands up, stretches a moment, cracks her neck, and then sort of glides out of the cargo hold following the green light. And then you go to a male, and you tell him to stand up or whatever, and he stands up and it's like, I am Dirk.
Ah, yes, Dirk and Vixen. Okay, he's like, okay, very well, Dirk. Follow the lights, head towards the lab.
Be my pleasure. He nods, straightens up, cracks his shoulders, cracks his fingers, and then follows the light out. And yeah, those are your two subjects. The rest don't seem to be conscientious outwardly of a change in their ranks, although they do not like stand up and fill in. There's just two gaps at number 22 and number 40, whatever it was, or no, number 15 and 22 in the 1 to 50 range are stood up and gone out. So you've got your two samples.
They like come into the lab and see
Yeah.
Barlow decked out in his like lab coat, apron, heavy experiment, like chemical resistant gloves, safety goggles so big that obscure most of his face, and he's just there beaming with this wide smile, like, "Good, let's begin."
So a female form walks in and sees you and says, "I was told to come here." Or
Yes.
it begins out generic. It's like, was told to come here, and then looks around the room and looks at you and says, "I am Vixen. Is it to be
Your name is not relevant. Sit down.
Is it to be cosplay then?"
No, heavens, no. I'm a scientist. Please have a seat.
A scientist, and I am your subject.
Yes,
I
now you're
understand
getting perfect.
entirely. Please,
Exactly.
doctor, I will just recline over here. And it goes.
Excellent, yes.
She goes and sits on the table and crosses her legs and sort of turns. Says, "You will examine me now, or will you wait?" And then at that moment, as you're like, Dirk walks in, takes a look around the room, and says, "I was told to report here, and I'm Dirk, and I see that we have some business to be about."
Yes. Make yourself comfortable on that other slab. We'll be with you shortly.
"I will wait. Am I to observe the proceedings?"
I suppose it's just a matter of drawing some samples. I'll be with you soon.
Drawing some samples. Dirk pauses and thinks and says, "Is it to be clinical then?" And he switches to like a vaguely European accent. "A clinical study then of the machinations."
Something of that nature. And he just kind of like turns around and like, what's happening here?
Yeah,
Atlas,
Dirk goes over and
I need
says,
an adult.
"May I use this clipboard? Perhaps the props will help you." And he like picks up
No,
a data
Put that
lab.
back down. That's sensitive information.
Putting it back down. Perhaps then I could observe, give you pointers, information you require.
Pointers? I'll have you know I'm one of the most intelligent men in this sector.
And I think at this point, like, Atlas is
Yeah. I come in and
Comes
and I see you like, he's like reaming this plot.
And that was only before my
okay. So
doctorate.
Atlas, where you come into is he's like Varlo's going off. You've got
Yeah, just
Vixen
rambling.
sitting there, who's just cross-legged. Somehow her like synthetic material has like slipped down on her shoulder, and she's like observing them.
Like, hate
And
me
then
like one
Dirk
of
is
my
sitting
screws.
there, looking tough with like he's put a data pad, but he's got the like sort of like stylus still in his hand, and he's tapping his leg, and he's like, "Oh yes, and Varlo's just screaming at him.
Atlas comes in. He says, "Varlo,
Atlas?
have you taken your medication today?"
My what? No, but this is. Oh, this is very frustrating. Can we get to the experiments, please?
Yes. I then turn to the two. Lay down.
Yeah, Vixen immediately lays down on the bed. Dirk lays down on the floor where he's been standing.
No, on the other observation table, Dirk.
I understand. Very well. And you get them both laying down.
Yeah. And I turn to Varlo. So where do we start?
Air samples, blood samples, full diagnostic scan, and then that one will get some extra prodding. He's upset me.
I think, like, as you say that, Atlas is just like, this is still product. We must make sure it's in peak condition.
Right, just a singular spine sample. Maybe a few skin grafts.
Yeah, Dirk
No.
actually like sits up at that point and says, "Perhaps it's unclear. Declare what your intentions are here, and we may be able to comply more to your liking and to your pleasure. Is this to be an investigation or research, or no, not research, an investigation into more of the subtle intricacies of what we can do, or is this a diagnostic scan?"
It's a disassembly.
Understood. And they all like relax and go like sort of limp on the table and lay back. Like, I think they were unsure of the contacts. Actually, in fact, Rosebud pipes up and says, "It appears the subjects are prone to having an advanced ability to interpret contextual cues and seek to identify and respond to what the needs of their masters are, without having to be prompted overly. They did not seem to be able to readily compute or cogitate on what it is you're doing here. They're not used to it, or at least not outside of a lab context where they were born."
Okay. Yeah, Atlas is just like, I'm gonna be taking blood from both of you. Stay still. And he just takes a blood sample from both of them.
No
Yeah.
flinching.
Yeah, exactly. And then are we taking spinal fluid as well?
From that one, yes.
If we're going to take spinal fluid from one, why not both?
He questioned me.
Curious.
And Varlo's like goes over to the terminal and starts setting up like the actual full body scan.
Yeah, you flip them on their side and you do a spinal tap on them both. An incredibly painful procedure that neither of them seem to flinch at.
Curious. Does it seem like they're able to feel pain at all to you, Atlas?
Yeah, if at that point, like, I see the procedure going on one, I would tune into the next one with my telepathic contact and see if they actually feel pain or not.
Yeah, so Vixen you do second, and after the first and this question gets asked and you're sort of reaching out, Vixen says out loud and says, "Do you wish us to feel pain? We will feel pain for this procedure if that is what you desire."
No,
Is
don't.
it voluntary?
Yeah, you can voluntarily turn on and off your neurological syntaps to feel pain.
The pain is still felt. It is whether it is visceral and for your needs.
No, we don't need you to stay still. Feel no pain. Well, it'll make the procedure go much faster.
Yeah, and you do the second one to Vixen, and connected to her now, or like sort of probing mentally at her. She definitely is experiencing the pain, but is almost able to compartmentalize it, or not show it or react to it. They seem very mentally fortified, if you will.
Okay.
So they feel pain. It's not like it turns on and off, but
Okay.
There's no like reflex response. For some reason, they can just tune that out. Okay.
yeah, in fact, as you're like going through your diagnostic and you do some basic reflex stuff, unless you like instruct them to say like, "Do you feel this?" They will have no reflex reactions. but if you're like tuning into them a little bit, they definitely like their synapses are firing, if you will.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. So yeah, Atlas would turn to Varl and be like, "We would need a full body scan. It's quite interesting how they yeah, words.
Compartmentalized.
That's
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah, that's the word.
Rosebud comes in
human-
and says, "I believe you're looking for compartmentalized."
Yes, it's a peculiar word in your human language. And, yeah, he just puts like a brain scanner on them. And I
Yeah,
guess
so you guys put like a series of like headgear on that's got like various diodes, and like a big machine comes over and goes and like charges up and does a like preliminary sort of sweep, and then like sets up like kind of like a scanner. Like they're in kind of these slabs, as you said, but that have like fold over equipment that like makes it like a tanning bed almost.
Mhm.
And then like a machine passes over, and you set the procedure to go. It doesn't take very long. There's, I think they don't move at all, which is really good for your imaging. They move preternaturally, like less than, or like supernaturally less than you would expect. Like there's no flinching or anything. It's almost like there's a diagnostic mode programmed into their psyche.
Huh.
Maybe you can learn more about that as you investigate them, but they definitely seem very good patients. And you scan them, and why don't you make me a roll? See how much you learn about them.
what type of role would this be? Just curious. Curious. And if I can
So I think,
assist.
so I don't want you to assist because I think you're both involved in the process, and you can make 2 separate rolls to learn at different DCs, different things that you notice through the process. So you roll me your program roll, I think is what you would do for Varlo. And what do you want to roll for me, Atlas?
I could do program, heal. Those are the only 2 that I can think of that would take place here.
Okay. You can do either. Tell me what you're trying to learn. What aspect of them are you trying to learn about?
I'm just trying to learn whatever. This is more of like a curiosity to Atlas. The fact that like they were able to inorganically like engineer these people is sort of something that he's interested in. I'll do.
So inorganically, is there
Well, because they were bred for this, right? And presumably like chemically induced somehow, right?
Let me look at something real quick for a skill.
There's got to be like a certain degree of chemical and like neurological modification, but there's also got to be like a strong degree of like mental conditioning that's gone into this as well.
Should I
That
just
might have been
roll,
like
Should I just roll heal so that we get 2 different?
So you can roll heal, you can roll connect, because you see in their responses something akin to what you recognize in yourself, Atlas. You can roll notice, you can roll program, you could roll talk. Yeah, I would say those.
Then I'll just go with program because none of those are healed. So
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, and heal. Heal would roll too, would work too. Roll your heal.
Okay. Boop.
Sorry, I meant to say that.
No worries. I got a 9.
Cool. So you both get good responses. You both 9 was the DC to learn something significant. Varlo, you get a technical readout of their DNA, and you see is that their DNA structure, they have a different number of chromosomes than the normal 23. They're aligned differently. They're positioned differently. They're, for all intents and purposes, not human. in the sense that their DNA structure is all wrong for it. But it's been compensated where that it's physically human, it appears human, but it's some pretty advanced stuff that you didn't know was possible in their DNA structure, their breakdown, their composite, their bodily composition of, like their molecular composition is different than human. They appear not to have certain organs or the functions of those organs. The sort of elemental composition that would indicate to you a healthy human life is not there. It's almost like they need less to subsist on to survive. That they are durable in certain ways and fragile in certain other ways. That their DNA structure is, if this was a human, you saw this, you would think that they were super compromised to the point where it would not be the life could not succeed. Like it wouldn't work. Like it doesn't make any sense, but it does because the thing is living and breathing in front of you. Your diagnostic does not show up any cybernetic components. To note, there are certain aspects you would expect. Tracking chips, chips like identification chips, certain components that are fairly standard in terms of dealing with eyesight. Like you send some like small chip and some diodes connecting to the eye sockets and whatnot to suggest that their eyes are like pre-corrected and probably their eyesight is excellent. And the rest of it is all genetic and it's a mishmash and you don't understand it. Whatever it is definitely clearly proprietary and a success, because you look at the composition of the DNA and it would say to you this would be a puddle of like biomass, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But here it is. It works and it lives. So clearly there's some advanced genetic research that has been done and worked into it. Do you have a further question you want to ask?
Yeah, I'd like to know how similar are the two of them in terms of their genetic makeup. Are they similar only in that their composition is designed the same way, or are they nearing on identical strains of genetic material?
They are almost essentially identical. In fact, you cannot identify without some further time committed, because clearly they have some typological differences. They look different.
Mm-hmm.
Your initial scan does not show any difference between the two of them. It would take some further like long analysis to sort of figure out, like understanding the genetic coding in the bits, basically.
But at a cursory glance, I would be able to assume that the only fundamental differences between them are cosmetic.
Yeah, that's clear. It's not even clear that whatever makes them different from one another is on a genetic level.
Okay.
And
I turn the
yeah.
screen over to Atlas so that he can see all this and kind of just nod
Yeah.
and say, incredible.
You push this over, but Atlas has sort of got his hands sort of hovering over the body of one of them and then the other. Atlas, you get tell me about your heal skill. Maybe not the skill itself. Tell me about what you are investigating on healing and what your knowledge is.
He's just investigating like how they are different from humans and his species. Like he's putting what should work, right? Because he presumed that they were human, right? And maybe after finding out that they're very clearly not, except for face value, he sort of like is looking towards it in a much more like organic way, like how these things were formed, like if they were even formed organically, like what type of strains they would come from, stuff like that.
Yeah, so medically, so you run your scans over, and they're definitely not like other humans. You would think of them as aliens immediately. in the sense that they don't have like if humans like physiologically are defined by certain characteristics when opened up and examined, they are lacking in certain similar to what Varlo found. Like they don't have certain organs or organs that are in play like placeholder organs rather than things that imply that they need to be there to have a function.
What organs?
So, for example, they seem to have no kidneys. Like, and what that means, you don't know. They don't seem to have, like, they have the semblance of a liver, but it's a different shape and different composition than you would expect. Like, it just looks different to you to Atlas from the outside. The most important part that you examine sort of from a mental or a medical imaging standpoint is their brains. To a layman, they look like a human brain. To you, it is wrong. It is, or rather, it's different. It's hard to say. The coils are coiled differently. Things are different. The entire thing is clearly engineered differently. If humans are quote unquote engineered by time and evolution, this thing is engineered differently. It looks human. It's human. Probably, maybe. Definitely.
Probably.
But it is totally redesigned in some very critical ways that you suspect that some of the behavior you've seen is a result of that. Being biddable, not needing to move around. It's joints and limbs that you've noticed. It's ligaments, it's tendons. They are either a synthetic material that was implanted at some point or something that was grown in them, so that they're unusually, call it limber, like so they're able to like sit for, you've had them for a couple weeks, sit in a crouch and not move for weeks on end, and then to stand up and not be seized up, if you will. Whatever process, whatever development process brought them to where they are, it's extremely detailed.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is like they didn't have tendons and ligaments. They were like put there and grown there, right?
It's unclear. It could have been that. Like it's unclear from the two things you guys got whether they were grown into adults or whether they were grown as children and raised up, but the things that were, say, 3D printed into them were able to self-replicate as they aged, if you will, like their kneecap or whatever. Like it's unclear of that, like whether they were assembled as full adults and sort of cultured and grown into that, or whether they lived a human life, if you will, like were born, grew up. You suspect, and 9's pretty good, you suspect the latter, that they were probably assembled like into adult form. They did not live a human adult, like child to adult life.
It's like rapidly aged?
Like grown from the mush of
from whatever genetic mush,
from the bio goo into an adult human being.
Yeah,
like not
like stimuli was induced to this mush to shape it into a human, is what you're saying. It wasn't human to start. It was sort of cookie cuttered into a human.
Yeah, that's your hunch right now. I'm not going to say that is what it is, because I think there's more to be discovered here. But that's your hunch right now, and it jives with the data that Varla just showed you about their DNA structure being totally foreign to human beings.
Well, I would turn to Varlo after getting all this and be like, well, they're definitely not human.
No, but they pass remarkably close.
They probably induced some sort of stimuli into this genetic material, this organic ooze and created this human-esque alien life form.
Yes, but see how perfectly each of these genetic markers match up in each different sample. It's just nothing short of miraculous work.
Vixen and Dirk both pipe up simultaneously, say, "Thank you," and like it echoes. Like,
Yeah. Atlas sort of turns to Varlo and says, "Do you think we could replicate this?"
It's not exactly my field of study, but given the resources and enough time, I could begin to break down this process, but well, it would require a bit more time and a lot more tools, stuff that, while is obtainable, would require more workers, more research, more everything, really.
Interesting. Yeah. And
But we could, and this is something to benefit the crew as a whole, store a record of this for future
ventures.
profiting.
For future ventures.
Yes.
Yes, and I think we sort of like speak to Rosebud. Rosebud, please script all of this information into your main data bank. And crypt it so that only me and Varlo can interact with it.
affirmative.
VIP level 5.
I will point out to the both of you that there are aspects of this data that I believe I've detected signatures of being trademarked, or at least copywritten in some way.
I
Protected.
can overwrite that with time, don't you worry, Rosebud.
Oh, it was readable. The readability was not the issue. I just wanted you to be aware that this is proprietary material that you are handling. That I am handling. Information
handle it with
stored,
honor.
locked away.
Yeah. And yeah, I think we can close on that scene.
Level 5 clearance initiated.
Yeah. like a data pad code is sent to us every time someone tries to access it with random number generator. It's like
Level 5 is you initiate something rather high. Like they're gonna be whoever tries to access it will be accosted and detained by Rosebud until you can like say it's okay.
Perfect.
But that's good too.
I like that. I like that even more than 3-step verification. I think we can close the scene there, right? Like, there's more
Yeah.
to be learned, but
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess you guys dismiss Vixen and Dirk.
Yeah, we don't really need them physically. We have their samples. We can
Yeah,
continue to
exactly.
pour over the data.
Cool. Yeah, you tell them to stand up, and they stand. And they say like simultaneously, "What is our next task?"
you are dismissed. Go with the others.
They nod, and they not relax, but they're like posture shifts, and they sort of shuffle off like identically, and they move back into where they came from. And they probably fit back into this. If you peek your head into the cargo hold, you see that they've like slipped back into the same kneeling posture in their original spots
Yeah.
and haven't moved.
I just have one last question.
Sure.
Is there psyche much more that of a VI, like a high level VI, and less of a like actual intelligence?
Well, I don't know. You haven't really tried to psychically reach out to them, right?
Well, I mean, I have though. Like I
Yeah, well, like you've reached out. No, so it at least in the. So tell me about like your psychic ability. Just tell me about your basic psychic abilities again, like telepathy. What can you do? So you've reached out to them, and the cursory examination that you've done to interact with them has felt human.
it's just
it-
felt human. Okay.
It's felt human.
right,
That
that's
doesn't
fine.
mean that you can't feel more or differently if you want to psychically investigate it further. That would be a different investigation, though.
Yeah, I'll do that later. We can do
Okay.
some other scenes because I don't want to take up all the time.
Cool. Good stuff. Maximus. Selfie.
Yo.
So,
So Carmela comes and this is around concurrently at the same time. But Carmela comes and it's like, all right. So Max, can I call you Max?
sure.
Maximus. Okay, Maximus. Anastasia. That's the name I got. It's she was well, the work was done. There was I had some cargo, like I said, I think it was weapons. I think it was some badass weapons. I don't know where it's ended up. It was a couple years ago. But it was pretty standard as far as I've given to understand how the smuggling operation works on New Jerusalem. You take some cargo, there's some fake credentials passed, you go down, you find your taker, they have transport, but it varies. I think like New Jerusalem, you're either on the tramways on the mid-level or you're going underground through the sewer systems. Like, there's a lot of different ways to do things. She's not our contact for this delivery. She might have advice. She might be dead. She might be employed by somebody else. I think I can trust her. I'm pretty sure I can trust her. But that said, we got this cargo, and I was moving a couple crates. I wasn't moving 50 naked people.
Yeah. Think there's a way we can get that buyer without her noticing?
Well, I wanted. Well, I mean, she was Triad, at least when I worked with her. She knew the people in the security infrastructure to get it by. That's what I'm hoping, is that we can contact Anastasia and she can get us into the system. I don't know that she can help us out with that more. And my point being is that, yeah, like, getting us into a cargo bay and getting the cargo out of the cargo bay is one thing, but then getting it from there to through a city of, 30 billion people is easy and hard, depending on how you want to look at it. So, she's going to have some advice for me, I hope, if you will allow me to reach out to her. But that said, you need to know the next step. You have your contact. Are you going to contact them when you're outside the system or when you're on planet? Did they give you like cargo codes to land, like shipping verification?
Did they?
No.
Nope, we gotta get past all that.
I see. Okay, so then when we make our jump, I'll contact Anastasia early and see if she can tell us which way to go. Like, quote unquote, port of entry. I mean, as you certainly know, there's a number of ports that you can land at in New Jerusalem. There's other discreet ways to enter the city. You can always leave the ship orbiting with some crew and take a stolen or rented pod down and shuttle 2 at a time. I mean, there's a number of ways we could go about this. I don't know what it's always been a question about how much the government there cares about what comes in and out. And I think this is a good question, right? Whether this is something they'll care about or not.
Well, just have to drop some triad names and have some bribes on us if we need it.
You think they're that in their pocket?
I think it might be a good oh shit, drop some names and see if something happens.
Okay. Well, I'll reach out once we're in system right away. And I think I can get a secure channel. Rosebud, can you make a secure channel? And Rosebud gives the affirmative. We can encrypt certain communications. So Carmela nods and is like, well, that's good. I think we're gonna just... Well, I don't want to fly by the seat of our pants. That's why I thought about this past job. I was told never to contact her again, Anastasia. I think it's worth it here, and I don't think she'd be that pissed. Right? Like, after you do a job where there's bad things happening, you know, things go well, you're like, this never happened, and turn away. But I managed to swipe her encrypted datacom number, so...
Good job, Carmelo.
That was a long time ago when I was a little bit more nimble and, if you can imagine it, a little more freewheeling.
Oh, I can imagine it.
Thank you, Maximus. That's very sweet. Well, lady needs her beauty rest before she takes the ship through the tunnels of Spike Space that you all would, if you took the helm, would get warped out of existence or something like that. So I'm gonna go take a nap and probably eat the Cheetos. They're still there, right? You didn't eat all of them, Selfie. Cheetos.
Might have to restock when we're on.
God damn it, all the work I do here. And she like storms off. Yeah, so I think you guys are ready to make the jump. We want to do that right now?
Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
jump.
Good. So yeah, hours pass. I rolled it all in. It's gonna be 2 weeks total for this whole trip. So you're in the kind of the latter half of that. And boom, that's fine. 7's good. 7 is
That's
the
good.
pass. Yes. Cradleus, or there's tons of traffic. Everyone knows this route basically. This is the route to get to. The system's controlled by Outer Tech, where there's a lot of ship travel, and to the main entry port of Cradleus, where New Jerusalem is, you guys' homeworld, or a couple of you guys' homeworld. The biggest city in the entire sector on this planet. The entire planet is a city, essentially. And the sort of entry into the southern half of this sector, or rather, if you're looking at the 2D map of it, the southern half. Yeah, so you make your jump, and yeah, let's pull up as you guys are flying in. It's some days later. Let me pull up my description of the system. So you're returning home, Varlo and Maximus, essentially. Almasari is the only planet that's orbiting the small, dim red star that is Cradleus. The system is tame. As far as these things go, there's very little going on around it, except for as you get closer to the planet itself. There's numerous ship signatures that show like common shipping lanes that would only exist for a thriving metropolis. And in fact, it is the case that the planet itself is dominated by an entire city. It's small, very small planet as far as things go, but if you fill the whole planet with a city, it's kind of massive anyway. You see ships passing on your screen, or like sort of as like the space equivalent of a landing radar, like ships going that are tagged for all the different factions. A number of Outer Tech ships are constantly going in and out the route you came in, and as you get closer to the planet Almasari, you see others. You see the tags for the ruling elite, the planetary government of New Jerusalem. You see tags for ships of the High Beam Union, which they're fewer and far between. You see them closer in, entering stations that are orbiting far in orbit above the planet itself. But the High Beam Union, is where what the Vanderhorn ship was tagged under originally. You see ships, a few of them, not many. They seem to be purely merchanting vessels, but they're tagged to the Xenotype Concord, which is interesting because there's kind of a proxy war going on Castor and 3-6, kind of between these two groups, where Xenotype Concord is the opposing group. So there's still commerce happening, or at least ships. Maybe they're diplomatic. It's hard to tell. You see ships with various other tags, many of them Carmilla and Selfie notice, that are various clans of the spacefaring folk, people who call no particular home planet their own, but are seek to band together in different ways. You see ships that are a few ships unclear of their origin. They look different. There's a frigate, clearly like a bulk freighter, coming in with a couple, like as you guys come towards the planet itself, a bulk freighter with a couple fighter escort that have markings that you don't recognize in any way. They appear to be clearly hardened spacer ships, with hull types that you don't really recognize. It's no clear defined, like this is a corvette or this is a patrol boat. Like it's like a type that is unfamiliar. So that's interesting to you, and you make note of that. You see some people trading here that look very unfamiliar and foreign to this place. And you see a number of others. The Madrasa Federation is represented in ships, a few and far between, tagged. Clearly long-haul trading freighters that are bringing goods back to their isolated community that you visited in Sigrid. That's 4-1, where you went, where you got Carmilla freed, basically. So yeah, it's clearly like these. If there's a center of this universe, this is it, and you see all types here, familiar and not. Atlas, you notice as you're sort of standing on the bridge, the station that is for the exchange consulate, and you can actually detect, for the first time in a while, I don't know, what do you describe it as? The pull or the call of the collective. Not like someone's calling to you specifically or something's dragging you, but just like the network that you could tap into.
Yeah, it's just a network. He just sort of start to hear like dial-up noises in Atlas's head, and then but instead of like the actual like buzzing of a computer, it's just like the chatter of different voices.
Yeah.
Beep, boop, boop, boop.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like, well, I watch, I've been a big fan of, over the years, Supernatural. Call me out, that's fine. It's Angel Radio. You basically are in range of Angel Radio. Except in this case, it's Lepidomo Radio. You're kind of like, it's been a long time since these senses, and they're not your psychic senses, or rather you're like biological senses. They're your alien components, basically. You're the pieces of you, and you sense those at the exchange consulate platform that is maintained above here, and clearly your people are there, or some collection of them, and that would make sense to you. But yeah, you guys are approaching, and this is the time to discuss what your plan of action is. So Carmilla has brought up that she's going to reach out in a bit to Anastasia and get suggest like, hey, do you still in the business, and can we get some equipment, get some goods moved in? Can we get the shipping passes, basically, to be able to get on planet? But from there, I think this is the time that you guys need to plan how you want to proceed.
Yeah. So we all convene on the brig, right? Or the bridge.
Yeah, the bridge. And bear in mind, I'm totally open. We haven't talked about it, but 2 of you are from this planet. So if you have means you want to say, I know a place blank, I'll give you a roll to tell you how good that place is or what the status of that place is. But if you have things you want to introduce that you want to make use of, places and props, let me know. Any of you can probably.
Maximus wouldn't have any contacts to criminally get a ship inside. Like, all of his contacts would be above board.
Right. Well, do you know of any military warehouses or places that, like, say, like, this we can use this as a base of operations, or this is a place where we can land? Like, do you know of installations or something that
I would
useful?
know of those, but I wouldn't want to bring our cargo there.
Cool. So nothing that's been deactivated or mothballed.
He wouldn't trust that. I mean, maybe he knows about some places that have been mothballed or deactivated, but maybe he looks into those when we show up.
Cool.
But that certainly wouldn't be my first idea.
Cool. Okay.
I might know of, like, I don't know the status of them currently because I've been away from home for a while, but I did have some places set up to test some of my more experimental projects that were basically just like containment centers. Maybe that's something that I can look into seeing if I could reach out to or determine the status of, at the very least, and see if we could store our cargo there.
So, yeah, make a note that you want to reach out to somebody you can trust.
Probably like my own lab assistants or something.
Yeah, someone you can trust who, if you ever came back, you can reach out to them, who could maybe set you up with a cold storage bunker, or containment lab or something. You've got that contact, so totally. So we get on plan and think about reaching out to them. Selfie, do you have anything in your dealings?
I think I would, if anything, it would be maybe associated with Carmelia's contact, but I don't think so. Not on this planet. I'm more of a spacer than a planet
Yeah, there's a
boy.
lot of space traps. So why don't you? So there were some unidentified ships that I said stuck out to you in particular, Selfie. Why don't you give me a no check?
Okay.
Int or wisdom, whatever's better.
Both -1.
Whatever's worse.
Let's do that. No.
Yeah, it's a mystery to you. So you've heard
We
stories
stayed away from New Jerusalem as much as possible in most
Well,
cases.
it's not really that, because you stayed away, but this is weird to you even in your outer system travels. When you bumped around in the backwaters, you've seen a lot of strange things. This is just odd. These ships stand out to you, and you can't put your finger as to why they stand out to you.
Okay.
You might. It's not to say, so you failed your role to know about it, but that doesn't mean it's any less interesting to you.
Okay.
In fact, it's almost more interesting to you that something is notable about these ships. There's a freighter.
There's a small collection of them, or all the ships that are here?
Yeah, it's not all of them. It's as you're coming in, it's not even like you pull up a visual display because it's not with an actual sight range of you.
Yeah.
But it's a display of the readouts of these ships, and you've been looking at ship signatures and this type of data for your whole life, and this just sticks out to you. It's a freighter, and it's got an escort of a couple fighters, and something about it is odd, like really odd.
Mm-hmm.
Their component structure, how they're shaped, is different. Maybe even you don't even. Maybe that's what the 4 is that you know that this is something interesting and odd, but you can't figure out what it is from the readout.
Yeah, it's like tugging back in my mind.
It might be important. So you put that in the back of your mind.
Okay.
You show it maybe on the side, and Carmela shrugs and goes back to what she's doing. So it's just something that you notice, that I think is important to you. Like it sticks out in in your mind and dredges up some like deeper thinking
Mhm.
that you want to do. Cool. Atlas, do you want to do any roles of anything or any like? Do you know who's on the exchange consulate station here?
I'll do a no roll to see if I do, but if not, it's fine.
Well, remind me who are the rebels and who are the conformers?
If this is part of the conforming sourceful, then he would definitely know them. Besides the sourceless, because he only really has one sourceless contact, and that's the fleet.
So you're sourceful and the one that the flea you said?
No, so if it's a sourceful contact on the that's part of this administration, since all sourceful are the ones that are sort of the indentured servants, then yeah, he would probably know of them, and would be able to make contact. But that's why I just want to roll a null to see if it's even.
Yeah.
a
So
human
if
knows.
they're so and you were sourceful previously, right?
Well,
Or
he's
you
still sourceful.
Yeah, but you were freed from that by the
Yeah,
sourceless. Basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you would know that if they are, you don't need to make a make a no roll just real quick. This is not for exactly what you're asking, but
Can I use Wiz or no?
yes.
Yeah. Ooh, that was bad.
So that's fine. You don't you haven't communed.
3
you
red
haven't
rolls in a row.
Yeah, you haven't communed with whatever the sourceful are who operate this exchange consulate base here, but you would know that it is an exchange consulate. It's officially tagged, which means that there are sourceful there who are working there, and you sense that they're working there. You don't have any experience with them. Like I said, you haven't communed with them recently with this particular group. But you do know that if you enter into, tell me if this is right in my estimation of it. When you are with, if you will, like communing psychologically or psychically connected to the sourceful in the whole hive mind, even across systems that are pretty distant, you guys have some mode of sort of feeling connected.
Yeah.
But you've disconnected from that. So if you were to reconnect with this group here, you would, in a sense, be connecting with all of the still connected, all of the source.
Yeah, I imagine that the sourceful administration connects that connects all the star systems is very much similar to the nodes of the other place that we were at.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
instead of like a precog connection, it's just like a telepathic instant transmission of information.
Right. Which is interesting from what the humans would be interested in and how that works over a distance. But totally. So you tune it out and that's kind of what I see your role as right there. Your no role is you reach out or you sort of open yourself enough to recognize and then close yourself off because you don't want to be sucked into that vortex. You don't. Worst case scenario, you don't want to be compelled again.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And we'll maybe think about as it goes along what it is that the compelling is that can happen for the sourceful, that they are complicit in it, and how you would resist that where you didn't used to be able to. But yeah, I think it works out something like that. Like you get a flashback of being not set free, but loosening yourself from the hive mind and all those sensations of what you desire in the universe sort of flow through you as you sort of sense that the connectivity is there within your grasp. It's right at your fingertips, and you sort of turn away from it. And y'all look at the sort of little dot that's the planet that's fast approaching. And why don't we take a break there?
Cool. All right. Take our final break here, guys. We'll be back in about 5-7 minutes. Please stay tuned. Wait up for us. In a little bit.